This podcast is on a mission to end the orphan crisis. You're listening to Family is the Answer, powered by Podcast Network Asia. We share resources and stories to equip families who plan to adopt and foster, empower advocates who fight for vulnerable mothers and children, and invite communities to impact generations. I'm Chrina Henson, the Executive Director for Generations Home, a nonprofit organization and licensed child placement agency based in the Philippines. Learn more about our work through our website, generationshome.org. Now, let's jump in to this week's topic.
Hi, welcome back to the Family is the Answer podcast. My name is Karissa Valdes, and I do creative communications at Generations Home. And I've only been with Generations Home for 6 months this month, April.
That's crazy.
Right?
And you just discovered that you're the producer for our podcast.
Oh, yeah. I also just discovered that.
Right?
Congratulations.
We're so happy.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and the surprise. Today, I have the great honor and privilege of interviewing John and Chrina Henson, who have started Rohe Foundation, now Generations Home. I just want to know a little bit more about how everything began, like all the behind the scenes, and as a newcomer in this world of like Generations Home and the orphan care space, adoption, foster care. I'm really interested to know like why you guys started this, what happened, why you decided to do this. And I think a lot of our followers, our listeners would love to hear that side of you guys as well. And so, yeah.
Great.
Great. Yeah, we'd love to.
Well, we're really excited about that. And I think it's really timely because, you know, we are celebrating kind of it's our anniversary month.
Yes.
And I mean, Generations Homes, it's always hard. Anniversary month, and we celebrate 7 years. And, you know, we look back on what God has done. I think in the previous episode, right, sitting down with Jam and looking back on just the many miracles, the many things God has done through Generations Home. And it's a privilege for us to be able to say that we were able to walk through and witness all of that. A lot of the things that happened behind the scenes that others didn't see, we got to live through that, walk through that. And though not easy, what a privilege, what an honor for us to be able to do that as a family.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and we're so glad that you're on board as well, Karissa, doing this for the first time. So yeah, we'd love to share what was happening, what was going on behind the scenes. And I can't believe it's been 7 years.
That's crazy, right?
7
years.
years.
Crazy.
That's a whole child.
I mean, it is because it's a whole our child.
Our child is 7.
I mean, we look at Chloe, right? And Chloe is the age of generation. That's kind of our indicator.
Right.
Actually, Generations Home started a little bit before Chloe came into our lives, which was how she came into our lives. But when we look at her, we're like, wow, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
She's grown up so much, and so has Generations Home. So.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to say before I ask the first question to John, so I'm just giving you a heads up, John.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Congratulations for the 7 years. I know it probably was not easy at all. And this is a great way it's worth celebrating. And another way of celebrating it is recounting what God has done, even for you two as a couple and individually. And so, yeah, let's celebrate that together right now.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, John, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to know what was your first thought that came to your mind when God told you about embracing vulnerable children?
My first thought when God told me, my first thought was, I think my first thought was, no, that's not me. If I'm completely honest, and if I really think back to the very, very first whisper that, hey, I think you should get into this space. I think my first thought was, that's not me. There are other people. There are other people who can do this. That's not me. And I think, wow, looking back, and what a great question. There's so many. There is a path where we might just think that's not me, but actually, if you just had the courage, and I realized that first response is a response of fear. And it's a fear of like, oh my goodness, the life I thought I would live, maybe that's not the life that that God has for me.
Right.
And it's a scary thought, because if you have corporate goals, or you envision your life to look a certain way, that really drives everything that we do. And so when there's a outrageous, this is not even that outrageous, but if it's not what you have in mind growing up, and it's a good thing, and it's a noble thing, and there's no doubt that I thought this is a noble pursuit, holy, and it's like wonderful people will do this, and it's a great path to take.
But
it's just not what I saw myself doing. And I realize now, when I think back, that is a scary thought.
Right.
And it took months of it took months for me to come to terms with, actually this is an option for me. And then another few months saying, yes, I will do this. So it was not an instant thing. It was not something I grew up saying I want to go into the social space and tackle the orphan crisis in the Philippines. It was from a moment of brokenness. And we won't go too much into that right now. But I can tell you one of the turning points in that journey of mine was when it was shortly after we lost our baby Celine, and we were driving down, I think it was EDSA, close to Makati, and there was the traffic light. It was red, and Filipinos are familiar with this. Children come knocking on your doors. And I've been desensitized growing up in the Philippines. What you do is they knock on your window, you knock back, which is like, not today, sorry, maybe next time. And that's normal. But for some reason, I was thinking about Celine, and I was in a more tender place in my heart. This girl knocked on my door. She was probably between 3 to 5 years old. I looked at her face and I just lost it. And I had just experienced loss of my own child. And at that moment, God showed me the value of one life. If I am mourning this much, if I can feel this much pain and be able to grasp the weight of the lost opportunity, lost dreams, lost visions of this one life, for one child, and I look up and I see this young girl knocking on my window, that's the same for her. And I look even further, and there were like 20, 30, maybe 40 children all around us. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that kind of the weight of that. And at that moment, God said, and I felt, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is where we're supposed to go. And I just had to muster up the courage to say yes. And it was really small and big yeses. It was an incremental thing. It wasn't like one big yes, let's throw our lives into this. It was, yes, let's do some research, Yes, let's talk to some people. Yes, let's start sowing into this. Yes, let's start visiting, Yes, let's start getting our hands dirty. Yes, let's start the registration process. Yes, let's fill up the application form. It's many small yeses. And then 7 years later, we're here.
There we are.
Wow. That's wild. I'm just curious, who did God reveal this to first? Was it John or Chrina?
I feel like it was separately for sure, but around the same season, if that makes sense. Right? Like, well, we weren't too far off from each other.
Yeah. I know Chrina was the first
Had a
one
head
to
start.
say
To say it.
it.
Okay.
Chrina was the first one to say, I can't not do anything. I remember a conversation, I don't remember where, but it's like, John, we know too much to not do anything.
Yeah.
And she was also the first to say, I think we should adopt. I was thinking it. And I'm like, why did you say it? And she was, it took me longer for it to settle my heart that this is okay, let's go. And that's only because I didn't want to, I guess it's a personality thing. She likes to move.
Say stuff.
Yes, she likes to say stuff. But I don't want to just be reactive and it be a fully emotional decision. I wanted to say, oh, is this really for us? Is this really where my family is going to go? I believe as the husband, as the head of the household, it's my job to say, okay, is this the direction of our family? Because this is one decision will impact the generations
Apparently
that come
everything.
before. Everything, right?
Yeah.
The entire trajectory of our lives. So although it was emotionally, it was like a yes for sure. It was, I had to wrestle with it a lot longer before I'm like, okay, let's really go and do this.
Well, I think that, just to comment on that, it's because we were walking through a season of grief and God was doing a deep work in our hearts. And you're mindful of the reality that you could, because of the grief, be feeling a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like the emotions are kind of higher than usual. And you want to really make sure you can hear God, because it was a step of faith. We were the people who said, that's great, Lord, but probably, it's probably not me. I'm sure there's someone out there
Who can do it?
who can do it, who has what it takes. And, look around and, only then realize that the Lord was speaking really to us. But you want to be sensitive of that and be discerning, and not like, it wasn't something we could just throw our lives into. So, So I think we were treading very cautiously in that season. So I'm assuming, I don't remember exactly. I remember those conversations of like, we know too much. It was just like, we know too much. We can't unknow it anymore. I think it had to do with OSEC and what was happening. It was just so dark. It was keeping me awake at night already. And it was so unsettling. I had too much information. Like, if you know this much, how can you not? How can you not do something? So I remember those days, but I think, those big decisions with regards to starting then Rohe Foundation or Generations Home, were those small yeses, one small yes after another until we found ourselves here.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of, because we're doing Sound of Hope screenings.
Yes.
It reminds me so much of like the story of Bishop Martin and Donna.
Oh, I'm so flattered. What a compliment.
Well, for those who have not seen Sound of Hope and you're in the Philippines, let us know.
Yes, you have to see this movie.
You have to see it. Your church has to see it. But this isn't a spoiler, but Donna was the one who first heard from the Lord.
Yes.
And who took an act of faith, like took a step of faith to move it forward and to tell Bishop Martin, like, this is what I heard from the Lord. And Bishop Martin was like, no, we're not doing that. So it just reminded me of that while you guys were sharing like your process.
Right.
Yeah. Chrina, like with that, like hearing from God and his revelation to you about being a mother or opening your arms to those who have no arms to run to, right? I wanted to know, like, were there any surprises? Well, I'm sure there are lots of surprises, but were there things that you did not expect during this journey that God called you guys on, that you discovered?
I mean, pertaining to adoption or like generations home. I mean, I think it's interesting because I think about it, and the answer is yes to whichever aspect of it you're referring to. But whether it's mothering a child through adoption, or whether it's being in the space of serving vulnerable children, lots of surprises and lots of things that you don't see, and brokenness that you don't see because you're not close enough. Only when you're close enough do you get to see the brokenness, and you get to see things a little bit better, and you get to see through the eyes of God what parts are hurting and what parts need help and what parts need healing. And I think that's the thing, right? You could look at it from a distance and it's so far away and you're so detached from it. And that's why I lived a perfectly normal, peaceful, what I thought was a good life before, and thought, I don't think that I'm honoring God more now than I was then. I was honoring him to the best I could with what I knew. Mm-hmm. But as I've come closer and I've seen more, it's that you can't unsee and you can't unknow. Right. When you're that close to the brokenness, and when you start to see things that sin has destroyed in the world, it's you just can't walk away from it. You just can't turn a blind eye anymore. And so I a lot of those things I didn't expect. I didn't know just how broken it was. I didn't know just how hard some things would be. I didn't know how badly children were hurting. I didn't know how deeply it was going to transform me. I didn't know how deeply it was going to transform our marriage, how deeply it was going to transform our children, our biological children, like everything it touches, because we now are close enough to the brokenness that it is on the Lord's heart, right? The things that break his heart, we say, break our heart for what breaks yours, right? You have to be close enough to see it. You can't just assume it from a distance. So, I mean, lots of surprises and lots of seeing things that you can't unsee and knowing things you can't unknow.
Right. I think that's really beautiful, what you just shared, Chrina, about while you were speaking, I kept thinking, like, wow, every time like we step into what God invites us into, he reveals something new and you can't walk away.
Right.
Yeah. And it just takes you deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's a trap. Just kidding. No, it's not a trap, but
a little bit in a good way.
You're captivated.
Yeah.
I think that's the term. Like, you're captivated by, yes, it's, you see the pain, you see the what sin has destroyed in our people, in our children. But I think you're captivated more by God's heart. That's what makes you stay. Right. And that's what I'm getting from what you shared. And I think that's really beautiful. And speaking of like seeing the brokenness and seeing all of that, were there, and this is to the both of you, can you share with us, like, if there were any struggles or heartaches along the way that you encountered, and how did God meet you in those moments, and what did you learn from those moments?
Wow, there are many.
Where do we begin?
I think what comes to mind, which is, I guess, the most glaring at this point, is really seeing my daughter, Chloe. Here we go. Seeing my daughter really, at 7 years old, wrestle with her identity. And I think that's one of the things that surprised me. How deep this goes. it's there's like a movie poster version of adoption.
A
trailer, right? That looks, oh, it's wonderful. Oh, would it be nice to have more children or to adopt? Yeah, that's not what it's. That's not it. That is. I guess we have to start there, but every decision, everything she hears with from a broken place. Everything she sees from a broken place, and to see her wrestle with that, and feel like I don't know how much I should be sharing, but and I know one day Chloe will be listening to this, but as a father, it breaks my heart to see her have to wrestle with all of that brokenness and the whys. Why did my mother give me up? Why did my father give me up? Why am I different? Why do I look different? Why are things harder for me to grasp or to accept? Why? And as a father, I can only go so far to explaining the whys, and her 7-year-old mind can only comprehend so much. But the pain is still there. It's still real, and it still affects every area of her life. So that for me stands out.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we always knew we would have to face as adoptive parents was, I remember walking through it and saying yes to adoption, knowing that, at one day our daughter or our child through adoption is going to need to process and wrestle with God over what's happened in her life, right? And I think I imagined that happening for like a teenager in my mind. I imagine that for a 12, 13-year-old maybe, and, having maybe the emotional capacity at least to process that. And I don't know why I envisioned it happening in her teen years. But, now to see her have to walk through and start that journey of understanding what has happened and wrestle with the Lord and come to terms with what God has done. And hopefully in the safety of our home and in the relationships that she has with us, know the truth about God's love for her and who she is, and be able to come back to that, right, as she wrestles with it and has to face some really hard truths. But it's absolutely heartbreaking. I think it's because as parents, it's like, I wish I could just do it all for you. Like, I wish I could just take it all for you. I wish I could do the hard work of wrestling with these questions, because we have, and we do.
I wish I could take the pain.
I wish I could take the pain so that my baby doesn't have to bear this for the rest of her life. But I think it's also a journey for us of trusting God that the Lord is faithful and he will be faithful to her, and that this will be part of her story. I mean, part of me is kind of like, I kind of see like, you kind of need to stand back because God's doing something in her life and we're on our journey, but there's a very unique journey that she's going to be on as someone who's walked through adoption. But I think it's heartbreaking because we now know what it's like for an adoptee, that no matter how beautiful your family is or how wonderful of a family you're born into, I'm not saying we're the best. I mean, we're far from perfect. But regardless of how great or how much love you experience and how much of God's love you experience in that home, you will still wrestle with some of those truths about who you are. And that's been hard for us. And I think for me, also, it's been hard for me to see that in the work of Generations Home. We work with so many different families who want to adopt, and I now sit on the matching committee, the interregional matching committee, and we get to see all of the children who get left behind, basically, and why they get left behind, and for what reason, and the weight of their stories, and the depth of healing that's needed in the lives of these children. And I think it's hard for us because sometimes I look at some case files and I think, I don't think this child's going to get adopted here. You know, I don't know if there's a family out here right now that would say yes to a child that's been through this much pain. And that's a heartbreaking thing to live with. And I think our team does that on a day-to-day basis. I think our social workers face that daily. Our whole staff faces that. You know, you would know, Chris, we carry that weight. We cry over children who we know won't get adopted because of something that was not their fault, a choice that their birth mother had made, and the repercussions of those decisions that ripple effect into them, into their lives. And so it's so much heartbreak, I think, but also so much redemption, so much joy, so much healing as we journey with God and we see him do deep work in the children that we serve, and for us and in our daughter's life, and in our, not just our daughter, actually, not just Chloe, who came to us through adoption, but even through our biological kids who are all part of it now. You know, they also walk this path with us in loving the vulnerable. It's a family thing.
Actually, when if I think about it, adoption and foster care is really saying yes to being part of a very painful story. It's really saying, yes, I'm willing to be part of this mess. And I'm willing to be in the mud. I'm willing to be in it. Because the truth is, this is where they are. This is their starting point. And they really, what family's answer is what we're saying is people to raise their hands and say, yes, I will go in that dirty, broken, messy, painful, heartbreaking place. And I'm willing for my story to take on that pain. But then through me, let God begins healing and restoration. But adoption and foster care and this work is a story of pain and heartbreak. But we have a hope, right? We can say yes to this because we know
we know how this ends.
We know how this ends, and we know where to go. We know where the hope is. We know that as we walk through these valleys, He is with us. So that's kind of what keeps us going. And when I think about even the story of Generations Home, every year there is heartbreak. If it's not in the children, it's in the mothers. If it's not in the mothers, it's internally in our team. If it's not there, it's the families. It's really just saying, it's really a a story of heartbreak. But
yeah, when you guys were sharing that, I really realized that it's all a manifestation of the brokenness of the world. Like the pain, the struggle, everything, the decisions the mothers are making, the fathers are making, and how that affects the children. And even the difficulty of prospective adoptive parents choosing what child to adopt. That's also like affected by their own brokenness,
right,
as well. And it also makes me realize how like even this story of pain, like adoption and foster care, like is a painful story. But as you say, like there's so much hope still because of the gospel. And we always talk about this, how the gospel, adoption is the gospel. Like that's what God had to do. He adopted us. And even the mere fact that the redemption story of God for us is for us to be in a family, for us to be placed in family. That's the whole redemption of it. But even us, like when we started walking with Jesus, there's still so much like now we're part of his family. There's still so much like identity,
Yes.
journeys or struggles and all of these things that even until now, like even for many people, like many years walking with Jesus, they still have struggles.
Right.
Yes.
And I think it's so beautiful to see, like, from your perspective as well, what you're seeing and what you're experiencing, how you're literally seeing the gospel, like you can touch it, you can see it, you can smell it, you can feel it.
Yeah, we say that actually a lot because it was when we had Chloe in our arms and, you know, year on year, she grows up, she processes who she is a little bit more deeply, that we start to realize how much of the gospel we don't understand and we have not embraced in its fullness, really, of what it means to be adopted, to be a son and a daughter, and how for most part of our lives, we weren't really living like a son or a daughter. And we had that kind of wrestling with our identity and who we are. And this journey has really allowed us to see the gospel come to life in a new way and allow us to really have an even greater appreciation of what it means to be adopted as the children of God.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but also in like the brokenness and in the pain, there is hope and there's victories. And I wanted to ask you, like, what are some victories or gifts? But I feel like saying victories more like, what are some victories that you've seen through the years?
Also a lot of victories through the years. I think we've, you know, for us, it was a step of faith for me in particular to say yes to Generations Home or Rohi Foundation full time. I mean, I don't have a degree in social work. I'm like whispering like it's a secret.
Now everyone knows.
But the truth is everybody knows. It's pretty obvious. And I have a background in social work. Again, it was one of those, that's great, Lord, but probably not me. And I think just how God's been really faithful. I think I came into this saying, okay, Lord, I have this, this is what I have. This is what's in my hand. And, just make something of it, please, because that's all I have. And to kind of see how God has been so faithful to take the little that I had when I said yes to leading the organization, and how he's allowed it to become something that would live 7 years, and that would have such an impact on the community and the lives of the families that we serve. And so, that for me is a huge victory, because career-wise, I felt like I had to leave something behind, and many times thought that I was giving something up, but not realizing actually I've gained so much by just taking the very little that I had, which I thought was even insignificant, and brought it to God and said, would you just do something with it? God's been faithful and has given me the great honor of being surrounded with so many people that have come along. Like, we would not exist without Jam. Just person after person that the Lord has brought in to come alongside us as a family and as Generations Home to say, we're here, we're going to walk with you, we're going to help you build, and to jump in with both feet. It's been really a privilege to see God do that for us. Yeah, a gift.
Yeah, I think the other thing about victory, I think this work has really began to challenge my idea of what success looks like and victory, because it's so easy to get caught up in the how much are we growing, how many, what are the numbers, and I guess to be fair, I mean, we do our best to steward the resources and the time that's been entrusted to us and the families that's been entrusted to us. But I mean, this is one of the things that I keep having to go back to, and I learn in the process of doing work in Generations Home is, it's kingdom work, and the metrics are just different. We're not measured by how many.
Right.
We're measured by our faith. We're measured by our faithfulness and our integrity. At the end of the day, it's not really like how much money did you raise or how did you solve the orphan crisis. It's, were you faithful? And we're not trying to build a name for ourselves here. We're not. It's not about us. It's really a challenge. It's like what matters in light of eternity, right? It says in the Bible to set your mind on things that are above, and not the things, and don't conform to the patterns of this world. So, I think when you said victory, I was like, oh, actually, yes, we do try to report, we do try to count, but at the end of the day, like, that's not why we do this necessarily. We're doing this because we believe God called us to do justice, love mercy, and be humble. So yeah. I think one victory is also the 7 years that we're still here. We're still here. And when you opened this episode and you said 7 years, I'm like, wow, 7 years. And that's humbling to know that there are people who are locking arms with us. I would count those as victories. Different pastors, churches, friends, family, and of course every person in Generations Home saying yes, really sacrificing for this. Those are definitely what I would consider victories as well. Yeah.
In the past 7 years of Generations Home and 11 years, right, of being married, I can hear from what you guys are sharing. You've learned so much, and you've experienced so much, good and bad, that you're probably haven't even shared with us. What would you say to your younger selves before this all began? Like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell John and Chrina from 11 years ago, even like when you got married? What would you tell them from what you know now?
I was joking when we were practicing. I would have said, like, run as fast as you can. I think, I feel like what's been one of the things that I think about a lot when we are talking to families about adoption and fostering is I'm so glad that I didn't know. There are some things I'm so glad I didn't know, because I don't think I think the Lord knew that if I knew too much, I might not have said yes. Right. That I didn't have enough faith. And I knew just enough. But I think it's just that knowing that you don't need to have all the answers. But that it's gotten better. If I look back at 11 years ago, it's better than what I thought our 11th year of marriage would look like. It's better than what I thought where I thought our children would be, or what our family would look like. But I'm so glad I didn't know then what I know now. And you walk through, valleys and mountaintops and highs and lows of the last 11 years. And sure, there were some really hard times. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm so glad I didn't know, because I know how fallen and sinful I am inside, that maybe if I had known, I might not have said yes. And that's a really scary thought. You know, we think about that when we think about Chloe, right? And we think about what it means to say yes to adoption. I believe there are some things we don't know the fullness of, right? We don't know the fullness. We don't know the full extent of the brokenness of someone who's been adopted. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we know just enough, right, to get us there, to get us to that place where we won't miss out on all that God has for us. So, you know, I'm glad I didn't know.
And there's still things that we don't know.
And there are still things we don't know. Scary thought. But the assurance again that whatever it is, that the Lord will be there, and it'll be far greater than what it is that we even have planned for our next 7 or next 10, 11 years that we have walking together. So yeah.
Yeah, I will answer your question.
Thanks. Sorry.
She kind of answered it, but not really.
I got it.
I got it. Okay. What would I tell my younger self? I would say, just focus on what really matters. There's so many things that are fun to do, nice to do, but really, marriage. Focus on your marriage. Make sure that's correct. Focus on your relationship with God, your personal connection with Him, your key relationships. I mean, and the thing that came to my mind was like this same old boring strokes, right? The famous line in Victory by Pastor Steve. Just really, really don't belittle those boring strokes, because I think the only reason we're here is because of those foundations. And every time we've been shaken, it's just like, go back to that. It's like, that's the only reason. It's our connection with God, our connection with each other. It's our marriage. And then now that we're parents, it's the foundation of being a good father and a good mother. And it's a foundation of us being able to do the work. We won't be able to do this. I will tell my younger self, you will not go anywhere if you don't just be faithful every morning and every night, praying and doing what's seemingly mundane. Just do it. Because a lot of things get noticed more. Oh, you adopted. Oh, you started a foundation. Oh, you started this new endeavor. But yeah, all of that comes from the under the water work. Yeah.
You know, watching you guys answer the like interact and even answer those questions, I really believe God gifted you to each other, and he knew what he was doing when he placed the two of you together. And I think as we end, I want to ask more questions, but I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh no. But as we end this episode, can you guys share with each other what words of gratitude? Like what are you grateful for in each other?
Yeah. Why is he laughing?
He's masking his tears.
Yeah, okay, yeah. A Band-Aid. Well, I think I'm really grateful, John, that I know that you've made a lot of sacrifices for me to be able to do what I do at Generations Home. So there's a lot of things that happens behind the scenes that people don't know. They see that I get this seemingly glamorous role. Wow, glamorous. But to lead Generations Home is an honor and a privilege, and somehow, I get a lot of attention because of that. And I get to be at the front end of what people see, and they like to say, thank you for all you do. And I'm like, wow, you should thank my husband because you've made a lot of sacrifices for us to be able to do this. And there have been some really hard decisions that we've had to make as a couple with regards to who's doing what, and a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that I always thought, my younger self would have been my responsibility or should have been my responsibility, or life should have looked a certain way. And they're not, because John is so gracious and so humble and serves our family so well that's really the only reason that I'm able to show up at work and do what we do. It's because of a lot of sacrifices from my husband to say, I got this, I got the kids, I have to go to the States for sometimes chunks of time, and he has to hold the fort with some wild safari-like children. It's crazy sometimes, right? It's like the jungle in our house some days.
Every day.
And we love it, but it's a sacrifice to do that alone. And I think our kids are so privileged to have you as a dad. And I'm so privileged to have you as a husband that understands what we do. We get to do it together. That, yes, I'm the one that goes to work at Generations Home every day. They're like, oh, he's not on staff. I'm like, no, but he really should be. Like, you should know everything he does behind the scenes that makes what we do at Generations Home possible. So thank you. It's a gift. It's a gift to me. It's a gift to our team. And it's a gift to really all the families that we serve at Generations Home.
Thank you. Wow. How do I do this without crying?
Cry.
Carissa's all for the tears.
Don't shy away from the tears.
I think on behalf of, I guess, the team and the work, I'd like to really just appreciate you for one, saying yes, and being willing to be the tip of the arrow, and being willing to be the first one to be misunderstood, being willing to be the first one to really get your hands dirty. I think you lead with a lot of courage and a lot of not courage. Yes, courage in the sense that we would understand, but I think courage, the courage to be misunderstood by everyone, just because you're so confident and clear that this is what God called you to do. And thank you for taking the heat when things aren't going well, for protecting your team, for protecting individuals, for protecting the families, for protecting the children. But on a more personal level, thank you for being a wonderful wife.
Am I making you cry?
Despite everything that's on your plate, you still you're a wife that I can't ask for anything more, and our kids can't ask for anything more from a mother, from being a wonderful mother who sacrifices every single day for your patients. I think there are, like she mentioned, a lot of things behind the scenes for us to make this work possible. We had to come up with a lot of creative ways to make ends meet, and there are things I had to, and I'm still growing in terms of like running an agency and trying to go on my own and sorting out just how to make ends meet. And you've been so patient, and I think and thank you for empowering me, trusting me, and being you have an unwavering support. Just sounds so, I don't know, corporate. but that's, I can't think of a better term. You're unwavering in the way you support me and the kids and everyone around you. So thank you for being that strong pillar, that strong, someone that we can rely on and depend on no matter what. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Parang I feel like I'm part of the marriage. Why am I crying?
No, thank you for asking those questions, because I think, just doing that and realizing that it's true. I'm realizing more. I guess we've always tried to pull ourselves back and not make it about us. But the truth is we love this work so much and that it's become like a child to us. Like it's growth, and we want it to succeed. We want Generations Home to do well. We want the impact to scale, and the truth is that we do run at a full speed most days, that we don't have the time to slow down and get to appreciate each other and what's been invested and sacrificed so that we can have a part in this. It would have been easier for both of us to say, let's set it up and, hire someone to just do it and, not have to be involved and sit in the background. But I think we care about it too much. And so to be able to just know and count the cost again and be reminded that what we're doing is really beautiful and it's kingdom work is a really good reminder for us as we celebrate 7 years of what God has done through Generations Home.
Well, thank you to the both of you for saying yes to the 7 years and saying yes to sitting down with me in this episode.
I love it. You might just be the new podcast host.
Oh, no. Well, guys,
yes.
You might hear more of me,
You
more
will.
of my voice. But thank you so much. I really learned so much about the both of you, but also a lot of golden nuggets that I'm taking mental notes of and writing down in my brain so that I can make posts about on Generations Home. And also, for those who are listening and watching us, if you're watching our video, comment down below #relationship goals. But yeah, it's been such a blessing to sit down with the both of you, to hear from your hearts. Thank you for being so vulnerable. I know I asked vulnerability and I got it. And thank you so, so much. And for our listeners, if let us know what else you want to hear from the Family is the Answer podcast. Leave it in the comments. But yeah, any parting words for our listeners today after the 7 years? Some of them maybe have been with you guys since the beginning. What would you like to say?
I guess 7 years. Thank you for standing, for being with us all these 7 years. There are people, you know who you are. You've just really sometimes dragged us back up on our feet, prayed for us. Thank you for believing in us and trusting us. And I think thank you to the team. I think the team of Generations Home is just, you guys are just incredible. Thank you for trusting us to lead this work. Thank you for those long nights or those long days or those very high.
Everything's long.
And the very, moving at a pace that we move in and just saying yes as well. I mean, we say yes, but you're saying yes. You're the one saying yes now. So thank you. Thank you, Karissa. Thank you for Jam and the whole whole team. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Just we're so grateful. I'm really excited for what God's going to do in this next season, and I think that in the recent years the Lord has added a lot of pillars within Generations Home that we have the privilege of being able to hold the founder's story and like those early days with John and Jam, and we get to do that, but seeing how the Lord has been adding to our team and strengthening our team and opening doors for us to have greater influence in this space of adoption and foster care, and to be a part of equipping the church and coming alongside the government and NACC. I mean, what a privilege. I mean, it's just such a privilege to be able to walk in my shoes and to be a part of it, and to be able to say, I get to do this. I get to lead. What a joy. What a joy. And thank you for the trust and the courage that it takes to let me do this. And we're just so excited and so grateful, so humbled that God would use us and our family in this way. Yeah. So happy anniversary to everybody. Happy 7th anniversary. Thank you for all who have come alongside us.
Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you again in the next episode of Family is the Answer podcast. I don't know when that is. Hopefully soon.
There will be more.
Yes, but thank you so much, and here's to bringing more generations home.
That was the Family is the Answer podcast by Generations Home, powered by Podcast Network Asia. Learn more about ending the orphan crisis and fueling our work through our website, generationshome.org. You can also find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you found this podcast helpful, please leave us a rating so more people can find it too. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you at our next episode.